Red Dragon Archfiend, and Stardust Dragon, the two most prominent dragon cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime. And these were prominently used in the anime by the two protagonists, Yusei Fudo and Jack Atlas. Though, as the years went by, though these two cards were used as meta staples in Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive, their own archetypes were never really that great. Not until recently. While Stardust seemed to lingering on get more and more support, they'll never seem to top any events. Red Dragon Archfiend, on the other hand, actually seemed to be doing pretty well. In fact, he's the reason why we have this deck as of now. Red Dragon Archfiend recently got its own structure deck in 2023 called the Crimson King Structure Deck. In that structure deck, they ended up getting tons of support that would add on to the strategy of Jack Atlas's famous cards. One of the newest cards were Red Dragon Archfiend, along with Bone Archfiend, and Soul Resonator, and lastly Vision Resonator. Spells and traps such as Crimson Gaia and Red Zone. These 6 cards of support, the deck would skyrocket in competitive viability. That's the reason why I picked up this deck with a really big love for Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and still wanting to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I was inspired to make this deck as good as it could, just for the king, of course. So in today's video, we will be making a deck profile for the deck as we go to today's locals. Be tuned for that. So for being our first video, it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but we'll see what we can do. Well, without further ado, let's show the deck list. So, coming off first, we'll have 3 Bone Archfiends. Now, this is the main combo starter. We need Bone Archfiend. If we don't have Bone Archfiend, we fall. How do we get Bone Archfiend? Normally we do that off of Soul Resonator. And other than Soul Resonator, there's no real way to search Bone Archfiend. I'm kind of hoping Bone Archfiend gets a searcher by some way, or maybe Bone Archfiend could be searched off of one of the spell cards like Crimson Gaia. But for now, we just have to hope we can draw it. Or Soul Resonator can get the search. So that's why we need 3. That way we can see the card at all times. However, on the complete opposite hand, there's this, Wandering King Wildwind. So yeah, one copy, this card could be a bit of a brick. However, maybe this can be some sort of comeback card. Like, just in case we don't have Bone Archfiend in hand, or Soul Resonator gets negated, we can special summon this guy as long as we control a Fiend Tuner monster with 1500 or less attack points. But attack point part doesn't really matter because all the Resonator monsters have 1500 or less attack points. And this can make it quick, easy, level 6 to 7 monsters, like the Red Rising Dragon, and we can lead into our usual combos. So that's a 1. And then up next we have Obsessive Loop. This is a Synchro Kit card. It allows us to turbo out our bigger Synchro monsters while also setting up the banishment zone for our Red Zone trap card. And Red Zone lets us special summon a Dragon Banish monster. Now, outside the deck, well, it's not in the deck, but non-archetypal, we got 3 Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweepers. Now these are actually kind of cool. I'll explain. So, normally the way we use these is we can discard one in order to add any level 3 or lower Fiend monster. So, Soul Resonator, or Crimson Resonator, or Vision, you get the point. Not only that though, but if we're playing against a deck like Tempai, or like Labyrinth, heck maybe even Blue, if they have a field spell, such as like Cash, we can special summon into the field. It doesn't activate, which means, assuming we're going second, and they have a board of a bunch of strong monsters, then we can special summon Stone Sweeper to the field, and then we can special summon something like a Vision Resonator, or normal summon our Soul Resonator, and that can be a quick and easy level 8 without risking the chance of our Bone Archfiend getting negated. So I like this card. It's pretty cool. Though normally I will side 1 copy out if I'm going second, so I can add some of my side deck cards depending on the matchup. Now let's see. On to the Resonators. Soul Resonator must be at always 3. This is our main combo card. When summoned, I get to add a level 4 lower Fiend monster. A Fiend monster can be Bone Archfiend, Wandering King Wildwind, literally any of the Fiend monsters in this deck besides Stone Sweeper. Not only that though, but it has a graveyard effect that allows it to protect one of our Dark Dragon Synchro monsters if they're going to be destroyed by card effect. That's not all though. It doesn't even have to be just a dragon. So long as we have the dragon or a monster that mentions it, we can protect our back row. So if we have something like Crimson Gaia out and like maybe Red Zone, or we control Red Dragon Archfiend, and they activate like Lightning Storm, we can protect it with still Resonator, which will keep our board from being destroyed. So this card's really useful. I love Soul Resonator. Honestly, that card that I think saved the deck besides Bone Archfiend. Next, we have our main combo kit card. 2 Crimson Resonators. I don't really think I need to explain these two, but basically, these two were released in Arc 5, and not only can it special summon itself, making it another body that can float well with Wandering King Wildwind without wasting our normal summon, so we still have Soul Resonator left, but it can summon 2 more Resonator monsters, such as, so long as there's a Dark Dragon Synchro on the field. Synchron Resonator. Now these help us make our level 9. Hence the name Synchron. If there's a Synchro monster on the field, we can special summon these cards to the field. Plus, if it's sent from the field to the grave, we can add one more Resonators back to the graveyard in a bit of a recursion. So my favorite card I'd like to add back from the graveyard after you Synchro summoning with this is the next card, Vision Resonator. Now this card, okay, let's just talk about this. This card is so good, we're seeing this card in decks that isn't even Red Dragon Archfiend. Not only can this card be special summoned if it's a level 5 or higher dark monster, but if it's sent to the graveyard, I can add any spell or trap card that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend. So that could be Crimson Gaia, for instance, or Red Zone, or Absolute Power Force. Heck, maybe even other more cards Konami supports. That displays our Resonator engine. Now let's move on to the cards that, well, if you want to build this deck, it can get a bit pricey, but they definitely help the deck. Maybe not in this meta, but let's just show them off. The Bastille engine. Now, this idea was suggested to me by a few friends at the store. Though, it took some thinking, but I eventually caved in and bought the cards. Now, these cards also help support one of our strongest Red Dragon Archfiend monsters, King Calamity. We'll show off that combo later. For now, let's talk about the Bastille engine. The Bastille engine is a group of level 6 to 8 dragon monsters released for the Fallen Balbaz archetype. These cards are all about banishing light or dark monsters to special summon themselves to the fields, each with their own certain effects. 3 Lubellions means we can search any of the Bastille monsters in our deck. Plus, it can also tribute one of our Bastille monsters, one of our level 6 or dragon higher monsters, to place a branded spell or trap card. Baldric allows us to banish a fusion summoned, synchro summoned, Xyz monster summoned, or link summoned monster by tributing 1 light or dark monster. Resonator, when sent to the graveyard, allows us to send a Bastille card, normally such as Lubellion, to the graveyard. Drewsworn, when sent to the graveyard, allows us to special send a monster to the graveyard, so that can get really useful if we have a tricky boss monster on the field we have to take care of that can't be destroyed by card effects. And lastly, there's Magnemite. Magnemite during the end phase can add any dragon monster, which means Magnemite could possibly get Drewsworn, for instance. Or, if we have something like Red Dragon Archfiend in the graveyard, we could use Magnemite to get Red Dragon Archfiend back into our extra deck. But yeah, that's the Bastille engine. Let's move on to spells and traps. Oh! Of course, we still have the hand traps. I almost forgot about those. Well, this is pretty easy to say. 3 Ash, 3 Droll, 1 Nib. Now, there's probably some questions wondering why do we not use other hand traps like Ghost Spell or Effect Veiler? Into that, well, I mean, I thought about it, but at my card store, a lot of people struggle to play against Droll. Decks such as Bell, Snake Eye, that they somehow activate their Bonfire and they search Ash. They can't really do much. So, I don't know, it's a very useful card still, in my opinion, and no one really suspects it. So, if they have something like Cross Out, they won't be able to cross out my Droll. As for the 1 copy of Nib, tight deck space, but when he comes out, he can clutch. Though he can definitely be argued to run 2 more. I just need to find stuff to cut. Finally, there's the spells and traps. Crimson Gaia, 2. Now, Crimson Kaya is... Well, this card is incredible, dude. I just can't stop talking about this deck. I love Red Dragon Archfiend. My voice can't really give it justice. Crimson Kaya allows us to search any Resonator monster card. Or, well, not just a Resonator card. It has to be a Red Dragon Archfiend card that mentions it. So, that could include Crimson Gaia, for example. Soul Resonator, as mentioned before. And Vision Resonator. And lastly, Red Zone. Now, these 4 cards, incredible. I've already talked about them. But this is basically the card that we need to get the whole combo started. If we can just resolve this effect, get the Soul Resonator, and then just go off from there, we can make a really good board. A strong board, too. I think the board can also win us the duel, assuming it goes well. Though, this is where, if we don't already start with the card in hand, like Soul Resonator or Bone Archfiend, and it gets like Ghost Spelled, we can't do much. This deck is very sensitive to one disruption. It relies on the cards in our hand. So if we open a hand like Soul Resonator, let's see, Stone Sweeper, Nibiru, Crimson Gaia, not Soul Resonator, whoops, Droll, Magnemite. If we get a hand like this, and we try and go Crimson Gaia, effect to add Soul Resonator, and they chain Ghost Ogre, and we lose Crimson Gaia, we're screwed, honestly. I mean, can't do much. All they can do, really, is just pass, and hope they don't have much to play through that. Although there's 2 extra effects for this card, so let's talk about that too. First, based off of Red Dragon Archfiend in Jack Atlas's whole attacking monsters in defense mode are weak. If a Red Dragon Archfiend monster attacks, I can flip all of my opponent's monsters into defense mode, sort of like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, for example, or One Giant Book of Moon. Now, that can get really useful at times if I have to struggle against a big giant tower monster. Red Dragon Archfiend can Book of Moon all of them, and then after Red Dragon Archfiend swings over one of them, I can destroy the rest of their monsters. Finally, this concludes with the third effect of Crimson Gaia. So long as a monster is destroyed by card effect, we can summon the Red Dragon Archfiend monster in our graveyard. Sadly, since it's not any type of Red Dragon Archfiend monster, it can only be the original Red Dragon Archfiend. It's Scar Red Dragon Archfiend. But who cares? It's still another giant 3,000 attack point monster. So let's just go through the rest of these real quick. I don't think I have to explain myself much. So that's Gaia. 3 Resonator Call, nothing special. This just allows us to add any Resonator monster. Not much return too. So with the Stone Sweepers, we have about 6 ways to get a Resonator. 2 triple tactics talents. I've been considering switching these out for Crossout Designator, but drawing 2 or taking control of a monster like SB has gotten pretty useful. Brain Regained. This card can be placed into my spell trap zone off of Lubellion, called by the grave to get rid of a possible Ash or Droll. And then finally there is Absolute Power Force. Now this card can be caught. It is not good. It's a win more card. Basically, with Red Dragon Archfiend, I can give it 1,000 attack points. If it battles a monster, the damage is doubled, and it does piercing damage. So it can be used to OTK a monster, so long as the monster's attack points or defense is 0, such as the runic pixie girl. I don't really remember her name. And that's amazing. I love it. Now, can the card be a brick? Especially. And I would much prefer to add like Soul Resonator or Vision Resonator, heck, maybe even Red Zone off of Crimson Gaia. But there's been times where just seeing the reaction of my opponent when they see this card dropped on them, it's incredible. It's hilarious. So I just kept this card in my deck even after getting all my new cards like the Steals. I just think it's hilarious. So cut it if you need be, but to me it's one of my favorite cards in the deck. Because I love anything that relates to the anime. And lastly, there's just a few traps. Add 2 to Brandon, which would show a combo off of in a minute. And Red Zone. Red Zone is able to destroy 1 card on the field as long as your opponent activates a card effect. But we control a Dark Dragon Synchro monster that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend or Red Dragon Archfiend in general. So that can combo well with Crimson Gaia. If we pop a monster, and then Crimson Gaia can summon Red Dragon Archfiend on the field, and boom, there we go. We got a 3,000 type point monster on the field, plus 1 card destroyed. And then, yeah, there we go. That's the deck list. 46 cards in total. I think it's really useful. The deck still needs a lot more support, I think. Maybe like a card that can let them play free Nibiru, along with maybe 1 more extra deck monster. But they got a lot of power already. I don't think they need any more power. Let's finish this with the extra deck and side deck. But let's start with the side deck. So this is our side deck. I've never been good with the side deck, really. Ever since I started playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I honestly never had a side deck up until my first case tournament, Phantom Nightmare. That's actually why I have it at. And I've been playing for 4 years. I just now started picking up a side deck, so I guess let's show off the side deck. So kicking it off, we have Stardust Dragon as like the poster boy for the side deck. Stardust Dragon, it doesn't really have much of a purpose in being here. I'm never going to put this in my deck because a lot of my cards, such as Soul Resonator or Bone Archfiend, locks you into a Dark Dragon Synchro monster. But I still like him being in here. He's a reference to whenever Jack Atlas stole Yusei Stardust Dragon. So I just think it was cool to keep it in there. And then, getting to the real cards, we actually using a duel. 3 Battle Fader. Okay, before you guys look at me weirdly, trust me, let me explain. So, Battle Fader is another card used by Jack Atlas, but Battle Fader is surprisingly useful right now in the TCG, guys. Whenever we have to deal with Tenpai Dragon, and their whole thing about attacking, we can special summon a Battle Fader straight to the field and just end their turn. Best they can do is maybe end on, like, their Heretic Seal or whatever it's called. And even if we don't open Battle Fader in hand, guys, we can just normal summon Soul Resonator. And Soul Resonator, remember guys, can add any level 4 or lower Fiend monster. So assuming we side this card in, we can add it because it's a level 1 monster. Plus it's a Fiend. So long as we get Soul Resonator in hand, we basically just clear the Tenpai matchup. And that's assuming we can't make our usual Red Dragon Archfiend plays. As for the rest, 3 Evenlies. This is in order. We have to go second, and we have to play against a tough board, such as a board against like Voiceless Bow, Snake Eyes, that type of stuff. Harpy's Feather Duster to get rid of any other control decks, such as Runic or Labyrinth. A Red Resonator in order to play through time. I would wish I didn't have to do this, but though I haven't really won a game off of Red Resonator, he's just there just in case. And then finally, Red Raid. Now this card I'm excited for. By the time this video releases, most likely, a card called Red Lotus King Flame Crime will be out. And that card sends this card to the graveyard. And this card can be added from the graveyard to the hand once you synchro summon. Now, this card, the only reason why it's not in our deck currently is because it can't be searched out. But once that card is out, oh man, this card goes straight into the main deck. This card can banish all the monsters on the field that are lowered to the level of 1 Dragon Synchro monster on the field. And then our dragon becomes invincible because it becomes unaffected by all card effects. So, assuming we end the duel with Red Dragon Archfiend, for example, we can flip this over, and then we can clear our opponent's giant board, banish them all, and then our Red Dragon Archfiend becomes invincible until the end of the turn. So they have to get through a 3,000 type point monster who is unaffected by all card effects. So I don't know. Some more cool cards. I'm also excited for another card called Time to Stand Up, but I'll show off that card later in the future deck profile. Finally, with the side deck finished, let's move on to the extra deck. The extra deck for Red Dragon Archfiend deck is very simple, very tight space, but I'll still show you guys any of the tricks that I run. Starting the duel off, we have 3 red Rising Dragons. Now, this card, it's our bread and butter. It's a card we always want to go into if given the opportunity going first. With Soul Resonator, we will most often search Bone Archfiend, and then we'll go into a level 6 Synchro using Bone Archfiend and Soul Resonator to go with the Red Rising Dragon. If Red Rising Dragon gets negated, we're in trouble. I know I say that a lot, but trust me. However, if this card can go off, we can just keep climbing and climbing until we get into our big Synchro monsters. Plus, it also has a little of a graveyard effect. Except for the turn it's sent to the graveyard, we can banish it, and then we can summon 2 level 1 Synchro, 2 level 1 Resonator monsters in our grave. So that can mean 2 Synchron Resonators, and then these guys can be used to keep summoning bigger Red Dragon Archfiend monsters. So, don't think I need to explain myself with that. The third Red Rising is used for the grind game due to these 2 Red Risings being used for combos. Then we have Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend to clear the field. Red Dragon Archfiend. 1 Scarred Red Dragon Archfiend. 2 actually. 2 of each. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. 1 Void Ogre Dragon. 1 Kubite the Blade Dragon. 1 Bestial Dissipator. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. And finally, our ace monster, Red Supernova Dragon. And then I use a dual token to separate my cards. So, yeah, that's the deck. I guess now we go off and show off the combos. Alright, so now that we've moved on to the combo part of this video, I will be dividing this into 3 different combo lines. This will be full combo uninterrupted, the King Calamity lock on your opponent's turn, and a 1-card starter using Crimson Gaia. Now this is all assuming we aren't disrupted. I will show off what we can do after we get ashed in multiple different spots or impermed, but overall, I mostly think of those combos on the flies, so I'm really sorry. But let's show off first with Crimson Gaia. So, starting the duel, we will activate Crimson Gaia. Of course, we will use Crimson Gaia to search Soul Resonator. We'll normal summon Soul Resonator. Effect Soul Resonator to add a level 4 lower monster. Now, this is the part where we add Bone Archfiend. And starting here, the very minute we activate Soul Resonator's effect, we are officially locked into Dark Dragon Synchro. No going back. So that means we can't summon staples like Chaos Angel, or heck, even like Stardust Dragon, or SP Little Knight, or Psychic End Punisher, you know, that type of stuff. Next, we'll go Bone Archfiend effect. Bone Archfiend can be special summoned to the field as long as we pitch a card from either our hand or field to summon it. Now, while we could send a card from my hand, I'm doing this assuming as if we only have Soul and Bone in the hand, or just Crimson Gaia. So we'll send Crimson Gaia to the grave, especially Bone Archfiend. Now, with these 2 monsters, you're probably thinking, oh no, how do we go into Red Dragon Archfiend? Because this Soul Resonator is level 3, and Bone Archfiend is level 4. Well, Bone Archfiend has a second effect. It can target 1 monster on our side of the field, and then send a monster, such as a Fiend Tuner, to the graveyard. So this is the part where you can send Crimson Resonator. Now, after sending a monster, we're able to modulate the level of the targeted monster by 1. So we can either raise its level to a level 4, and then we can go into Red Dragon Archfiend, Or we could change Soul Resonator to a level 2, and we can go into a level 6. So this is where we go into Red Rising Dragon. Now this is the part where we really spice up. Red Rising Dragon will use its effect to target a Resonator monster in the graveyard and special summon it to the field. So we'll target the card we sent, Crimson Resonator. And now this will be a level 8. Now the cool thing about this is Crimson Resonator allows us to summon 2 Resonator monsters except for it, while the only other monster we control is a Dark Dragon Synchro. So we'll summon 1 Vision, 1 Synchro. You can do a lot with Crimson Resonator. You could, instead of doing what I did, you could summon another Vision Resonator. So instead, that now means you go into a level 12 and go into Red Supernova Dragon. The problem with this, assuming we don't have another card on field like Abyss or Red Zone, this card can be sensitive to the opponent because the only protection it has is card effect. So our opponent can easily just get rid of it by negating its effect off a card like Forbidden Droplet or the card that returns it to the hand. Heck, even SP can just banish it. So I love Supernova, but we need to have some extra cards out the field to protect itself, just in case it gets in trouble. So that's why, instead of going straight into that, we use this combo to summon a Vision and a Synchron Resonator. That way, we can go into a level 9 dragon. So how do we go into a level 9 dragon? We got 3 tuners. Well, we will take Vision Resonator and Red Rising Dragon to make a level 8 dragon. Scarred Red Dragon. And now this activates the effect of Vision. So Vision will add a spell or trap. You have a few options here, but but you must always want to go into Red Zone. That way get an extra pop. Synchro with Scarred and Synchron Resonator to make a level 9 Abyss. Scarred Dragon Archfiend effect, now we can just talk about. So when Scarred Dragon is used as Synchro material, assuming we're going second, it can destroy all the monsters on my opponent's field in attack mode. Or it can summon the original Red Dragon Archfiend if it's sent from the monster zone to the graveyard. So we'll summon that. And now we have an extra Synchro monster ready to use as Synchro material. So we can take the last remaining and go to Dissipate. So now we have a level 10 and we have a level 9. We'll set Red Zone, and now we'll end our turn here. So we'll have 1 negate and 1 monster destroy, possibly. A monster negate or a monster destroy. Assuming a bit disappearing destroys a monster, we'll be able to use Red Zone, and now we'll be able to pop a card. So, not a great board, but you can sneak a few wins. The cool part about this deck is that it has a lot of grave recursion, because Dragon Archfiend can keep activating its effect while it's in the graveyard as long as we have cards to pitch. Red Rising Dragon can summon the 2 level 1 Resonator monsters in the graveyard. And this figure can bring back any banished light or dark monsters, assuming Abyss gets banished. Now let's talk about the full combo. Crimson Resonator, Bone Archfiend. Now this combo is a bit lengthy. It actually took me a few tries to get going. But if you can make this whole combo uninterrupted, it's rewarding. It's really rewarding. So let's show it off. So first we can special summon Crimson Resonator as long as there's no monsters on the field. Then we can normal summon Bone Archfiend. And then we go straight into a Synchro summon because Crimson is already level 2. So we'll go into a level 6. Red Rising. Red Rising's effect will target Crimson, especially on Crimson. Crimson's effect, it will summon 2 Resonator monsters. So instead of summoning Synchron Resonator, we'll summon Soul Resonator and Vision Resonator. So we didn't use Soul for the first Synchro summon, we can now use Soul's effect to add a monster that is Dragon Archfiend. This way we can get Synchron Resonator to our hand. Now we'll jump straight to Synchro for 9, using Soul and Red Rising. Make Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. We'll special summon Synchron Resonator. Synchro for 10. This will activate Synchron Resonator's effect to add a Resonator from the grave to our hand. Soul Resonator. But don't get too comfortable because we're already going to send this to the graveyard, because we'll use Dragon Archfiend's graveyard effect to send Soul Resonator back to the graveyard to special summon Dragon Archfiend back to the field. Dragon Archfiend will target Crimson Resonator to modulate its level, this time by 1. And now we'll show off one of the cool cards that lets it go in Supernova, Obsessive Loop. So by banishing a Synchro monster, we can add Obsessive Loop to our from our graveyard to our hand. So we'll banish Abyss, add Loop to our hand, and now we'll banish Red Rising Dragon for its second effect to special summon it. Finally, we'll go into a Synchro for 6, into our second copy of Red Rising Dragon. Target Synchron Resonator, special summon Vision Resonator will get us our Crimson Gaia. And now, with a level 1 now, a level 1 Synchron Resonator, and a level 4 Loop, we can tune these with our level 6 Red Rising to make a level 12 Red Supernova Dragon. So now that we have cards in our banish zone, thanks to Loop, we can now use Dissipator's effect to protect our Supernova. But wait, there's more, because Bastille Dissipator can bring back our Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Though if we wanted to, we could save this for next turn using our Crimson Gaia searched off red zone, in case we're worried about Nibiru. The cool thing about this is if we don't bring it back and they go Nibiru, we can activate Supernova's effect and we can banish Supernova, and Supernova will come back. So we'll lose our Dissipator, but we'll still have a Supernova and we'll still have an Abyss. Now the card I would probably bring back for my opponent's turn is Red Supernova Dragon, because I think having a giant tower monster be a lot more difficult for my opponent to get through than just one disruption. It's just this is only 2 cards. I'm hoping I'll still have something like an Infinite Impermanence or maybe an Ash Blossom. But overall, this is 1 monster negate, 1 monster banish, because when the monster effect is activated, I can banish all cards on the field, on my opponent's side of the field. And the cool thing is, with Red Zone, you can bring back the Supernova, and then you can do it all again. So you can banish monsters twice. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend can negate 1 card on the field until the end of the turn. So this can be a spell, a trap, a monster. I like to watch out for triple tactics talent. But if my opponent summons a Snake Eyes Ash or like a Branded Fusion or whatever their main starter is, and I don't have a Dissipator that can negate it, I will most likely shotgun my Abyss Negate. And I recommend that for everyone, because I can't just keep praying that someone's going to run triple tactics talent in their deck. I don't even see many people run that card recently anymore. So that's full combo. And now finally, at the end of the video, we'll show off the King Calamity lock. Let me just get our cards back. 1 second, please. So we'll need 1 Bastille Lubellion, and 1 Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. We'll start the turn off by activating Stone Sweeper's effect to add a level 3 or lower Fiend type tuner monster. So, we'll get Soul, and then this combo will be very similar to the Crimson Gaia combo. So, we'll normal summon Soul. Soul's effect will get us Bone Archfiend. Bone Archfiend will send whatever's in our hand to the grave. Bone Archfiend will target Soul. We'll send Crimson. Modulate to 2. Synchro for 6. Target Crimson. Special summon. Crimson effect will summon 2 Resonator monsters. So Synchron Resonator and Vision Resonator. From here, we'll Synchro into 8. Scarred. Get the Crimson Gaia off Vision. And then we'll Synchro into 9. Twin this. We'll go Chain Link 1 Scarred, Chain Link 2 Synchron Resonator. We'll add Vision. And then we'll summon the original Red Dragon Archfiend. Since we didn't use Vision Resonator's effect, we can now special summon it to the field. So now right here, we have a level 2, a level 2, and a level 8. So this should be a perfect double tuning to make our Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. However, that's not going to do us any good on our turn. To do it on our opponent's turn, we'll need the Bastille Lubellion in our hand. So by sending the Bastille Lubellion to the grave, we can add a Bastille monster. So it doesn't really matter, but I will always go Magnemite here. That way I still have a Bastille monster in my hand to disrupt my opponent's plays, assuming they're playing a deck that involves light or dark monsters. Magnemite will target the Scarred Red Dragon Archfiend in our graveyard, special summon to the field. On the end phase of the turn, Magnemite will be able to special summon it. Not special summon, apologies. Add a dragon monster to our hand. Now, Lubellion, contribute a level 6 or higher dragon monster to summon it to the field. Lubellion can place a spell or trap card that's branded. So, you have 2 options here. 1, you could set Branded Regained. Now, if you were going second, or you're not playing King Calamity, I would highly recommend doing Regained. Not only does Regained let us shuffle a light or dark monster to draw 1 card if it gets banished, it can also summon the Bastille monster from our graveyard, such as Dissipator or Magnemite, if my opponent summons a monster. The one that we're showing off to make King Calamity is the trap card, Etude of the Branded. During either player's turn, we can Synchro Summon immediately with nothing. So assuming they have no spell and trap removal, we can just pass, start on standby, Etude effect, Synchro Summon for 12, and we can summon King Calamity. And King Calamity's effect, if you didn't know, until the end of the turn, after it's Synchro Summoned, all the effects our card... All the effects our opponent uses are negated. Anything that activates in the field. So they still activate cards in the graveyard, cards in the hand, but this card basically shuts down all of their plays. So if we can get King Calamity, we basically win. Is it toxic? Yeah, but it's the strongest card. Though Etude can make an incredible brick. So if you're going into game 2 or game 3 and you're going second, cut this card. It's not worth drawing. However, it does have a second effect that might be useful depending on the matchup. I haven't figured it out though yet. So long as we control a Bastille monster, all of the opponent's monsters used for their extra deck summonings, like Xyz or not Xyz, Synchro Summoning or Fusion Summoning, acts as a sort of Macrocosmos or Dark which means all of their monsters get banished. So if I take a Magnum, for example, let's say it's my opponent, and a Vision, and we try to synchro into our Red Dragon Archfiend, those cards get banished. And that means they can use their own Vision Resonators effect. So it basically shuts them down. I actually got into a matchup one time against a Pendulum Magician player, and they just couldn't do anything, because instead of going to the extra deck, all their Pendulum monsters just get banished, so they kind of just had to scoop the duel. Now, that's all the combos we have. Thank you so much for deciding to give it a shot to watch our first video. I will be posting a lot more, not just Yu-Gi-Oh! So keep your eyes peeled out for that. Any and all feedback is recommended. Thanks for watching, and let's wrap it up. Red Dragon Archfiend and Stardust Dragon, the two most prominent dragon cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime. And these were prominently used in the anime by the two protagonists, Yusei Fudo and Jack Atlas. Though, as the years went by, though these two cards were used as meta staples in Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive, their own archetypes were never really that great. Not until recently. While Stardust seemed to lingering on get more and more support, they'll never seem to top any events. Red Dragon Archfiend, on the other hand, actually seemed to be doing pretty well. In fact, he's the reason why we have this deck as of now. Red Dragon Archfiend recently got its own structure deck in 2023 called the Crimson King Structure Deck. In that structure deck, they ended up getting tons of support that would add on to the strategy of Jack Atlas's famous cards. One of the newest cards were Red Dragon Archfiend, along with Bone Archfiend, and Soul Resonator, and lastly Vision Resonator. Spells and traps such as Crimson Gaia and Red Zone. These 6 cards of support, the deck would skyrocket in competitive viability. That's the reason why I picked up this deck, with a really big love for Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, and still wanting to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I was inspired to make this deck as good as it could, just for the king, of course. So in today's video, we will be making a deck profile for the deck as we go to today's locals. Be tuned for that.